that, I am sure we're going to have savings, and we can actually be able to use that money for something else. There are many other ways of reducing expenses, so you can consider. There are what we call do-it-yourself options. Is there something you can do for yourself? Can you clean up your compound? Sometimes, can you tidy up your fence? I had a cousin. He was 90-something, and every time I went to visit, he's the one cutting the hedge. And I was asking, why are you bothered? No, he said, this is my exercise.
Yeah.
So he does not only exercise, he cuts the hedge. So what is it we can be able to do? What about growing some of my food? If I live in the space, in the place where I have space. Nowadays we even have urban gardens that on a wall, a straight wall, you can actually put up a garden. What about using cost-efficient bulbs? And they will spend less in electricity. Yes, isn't this the time to avoid idle lights? Just forgetting the lights the whole day in the place. Maybe it's the time to go solar. If you think about it, then you have the means and you have the ability. That security light that stays on overnight, you can solarize that.
Yeah.
You can have a solar panel so that if you're taking a shower in the morning, you do not have to keep burning electricity. Buying food on the market day. There's a market like this one here in Ngari, which is not far from here.
Yeah.
There must be one, I think, Kariobangi or somewhere. There's a day called a market day. And on a market day, for whatever reason, things are a bit cheaper. So you can actually buy things in the market on a market day. Your foodstuffs is going to be cheaper. You can buy consumables like soap, tissue from budget stores. Where you go and buy bulk and you get a lot of savings by buying bulk. And maybe sometimes you can actually join up with a friend. I always say to ladies, the day you meet in a chama, if you consider how many bales of tissue all of you buy separately.
Yeah.
If you bought it together and it is delivered where the chama meeting is, everybody might end up with a savings of what, 30%, 40%?
Yeah.
That's big. Yeah. You can source your cereals out of town. I like the way we all have a connection to our village. That some stuff can be sent straight from the village to you and you pick them at the bus.
Yeah.
We are looking at many options. Everybody needs to look at their space. Don't look at somebody's space. Look at your own space and say, what are the other ways I can reduce my expenses? Can I do it myself? Can I look for what bulbs am I using? Are they LEDs? What bulbs? Do I leave things idle? All these things that are on, why do I leave them on? Okay. So again, I think we're saying let's be more vigilant in the way we live. Then that way we're going to have savings. Now there are always offers somewhere. If you keep your ear on the ground, you're going to hear their offers here and offer. So before you spend on your budget, why don't you look for most cost-efficient options? I'm not saying cheap, I'm saying cost-efficient. Where do they have a sale? Okay, because sometimes major retailers have offer on goods you have planned to buy.
Yeah. So,
the supermarkets have a sale, and it's actually the stuff that you're actually looking to buy. Some hardware has got an offer. Some clothing line store has some offer. If you get any of offers during that time, it may help you to save some money. So it is an important thing to be able to say, are there offers somewhere? Can I be able to take offers from somewhere? Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think we still need fun. We can't make life dull. Because life is not a rehearsal. So even in tough times, it is necessary to relax from the hassles of the day. To work around the resulting stress, we need to work around that stress and ensure that the body experiences feelings that are healthy. So yeah, we must look for time for laughter, for excitement, for enjoyment. That secretion we call dopamine, we need it. Because if you look at the environment where we live, it's fairly negative. You wake up, you hit the news, the things you hear, it can be depressing.
Exactly.
And I know I'm saying that while I'm in a studio.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to find a way of making sure we reward our body. We just doing, today is the end of what? The mental wellness month for men.
For men, sure.
But we must continue our wellness. June does not mean we come to the end story. I mean, that was the time to highlight, to spotlight, so that people learn a way of living with it. So we have worked very hard to be where we are today. and we need our body and mind to be in good shape to survive tough times, because I believe we are getting into tough times. So you must be fit for purpose. I think that's what he's saying. We want to make sure we are fit for purpose. Although your income is not able to do what it did in the past, because it's been worn out by inflation and other things don't have to be doom and gloom all over. No, it must not always be savings, bills, expenses. There has to be a provision for fun. Even in these times, there have to be provision. So give yourself room to have little fun in your budget each month. Even if your funds are limited, look for a reason to give yourself fun. Okay? And have a good time doesn't mean breaking the bank. So it doesn't mean taking out all the credit available or withdrawing from your emergency fund if you have any. So enjoy yourself while you're saving some money. And some of the things that you might want to do. What about learning how to cook? You know how to cook a few simple meals can help you to save money on food. Okay? Since it's cheap to buy food at the grocery or the market than it is to order a takeout or pizza delivery. Cooking is a very essential, I think it's a life skill. There are people maybe in my generation and younger generations who never got a chance for different reasons. I think for my generation was culture, and the boy was never allowed in the kitchen. And so we never got to learn. For younger people, there was always a house help. There was always somebody to do it. How do you learn when there's somebody to fix that? And when you now grow up and you start living on your own, you realize it's a life skill you don't have. Yes. You're struggling to make chai. And the day you learn chai, ugali becomes a problem. Exactly. And then you find you're not graduating past ugali. And you can't read ugali for life, So it's a skill that we need to learn, It's an essential skill. Sometimes you want to host a dinner and you want to impress your friends. Or you have a date and you want to impress them that you're not at zero. There's something you can be able to do on your own. So, and your recipes don't have to be complicated, It could be simple. You know how to make rice and beans, and you can have a lot of options around that without a lot of money, without spending a lot of money. So this allows you to take out, you can actually now be able to carry some lunch to the office or the place of work, and you're going to find yourself having a healthier meal than maybe that kibanda down the road or that nearby restaurant where you're not even sure of the quality all the time. So it's a small skill that you learn, but you find you're getting a lot of benefit out of this skill. It's also good to have maybe a movie night. You might be a movie maverick, and maybe it's cheaper now to watch a movie with your friends. There's no need to head to the theater and you're going to spend what, 1,000? I think it's 1,000 shillings per person, and then you put another 2,000 on snacks and popcorn and stuff. We can go and pick a film on Netflix or Showmax or YouTube or Amazon Prime. Or now I don't even think we go to the movie shop. I don't see them anymore. I don't know what happened. I think movies went to Netflix, so the shops went away.
Yeah, they were first off.
We can grab a few bags of popcorn. We can actually make this popcorn now in our kitchen now that we know how to cook, and we are set. And by the way, you can actually discover how to share Netflix or Showmax with your friends, wherever they are. Okay, with somebody else, so that you pay a portion, but you have the latitude to see all the movies and the shows that you desire. So we're saying you're having think about it when we are having World Cup. I know the matches are coming interesting hours. Nowadays, if you see somebody with the red eyes, don't ask why the eyes are red. There is a game, Brazil versus Japan ended up past midnight, and there was still going to be another game. So, but watching it together, maybe from the round of 16 or the semi-finals, together with other people, it's much warmer than being alone, isn't it? And if we had a small space at home, maybe it's much easier than going outside. I know it might be nice going to cheer outside, but I get what you're saying is you can have fun without having to break the bank. Maybe this is a time we take advantage of a couple of things that happen in our economy. The marketing guys think it's a good thing, but we can now be able to plug in. there's something called the happy hour. Wherever the happy hour comes, maybe we need to start wondering what is happy about the hour.
Yeah.
Can I be able to take advantage? There's something called a terrific Tuesday, and I think for the price of one pizza they sell you two. So you can be able to keep the other one and take it out on Thursday or Friday, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's something called a wacky Wednesday, and I think some guys called steers will actually be able to sort you out. Or this Friday thrill. There are many things. I see a burger fest sometimes. I see a pizza fest. And there sometimes I've seen something called Nairobi Restaurant Week. Plenty of establishments, they offer half price or others very discounted food and drinks. Meals a few hours each weekday. If you are tired of staying in, that can happen sometimes. You can feel tired of staying in. The way we were living in this place, we have all the 20-something floors, and all you have is your door. You leave your door, you come to the lift, and you go out. Sometimes you want to go and breathe fresh air, and maybe sit on the ground. You've been sitting upstairs too long. So you want to treat yourself. You have a date, you have a friend, you have for a drink or a snack. You can head out to one of these special ages. You need to find out what is this Nairobi Restaurant Week. And you're going to end up to a very high-end restaurant and pay not a very steep price for that. Again, we're saying be smart. Look around. Don't be left out. Be like the bee. It tells where the flowers are bright. Okay. Yeah. Find free stuff near you. Surprisingly, people don't know there are many free stuff around town.
Exactly.
There are free activities all around. KWS sometimes have a free bus to the Nairobi National Park.
Yeah.
Now, surely, what would be so hard about just putting on your stuff and finding out where the bus is, maybe Kencom or somewhere. You have a whole day for yourself to go and see the buffaloes and the giraffe, and somebody is going to pay for that. So but sometimes the museum has free admission. Children have never been to the museum. Or you have never been to the museum. Do you know how many Nairobians have never been to the museum?
There are so many.
But the museum is a walking distance.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have open days. Okay, they renovated Uhuru Park. And there are just that many people who have no idea that it was renovated. There are sometimes we can go to the Arboretum. Maybe there's a fee, not a very big fee.
Yeah.
How many exhibitions do we have in town? And many of them, the entry is free. Okay, KICC hosts them, Sarit Center hosts them. And you're going to spend a few hours just getting to see. You can be at the park, you can take your book and go and read. I know we have a lot of congested spaces, but where we have free spaces, you can go there. You can go for a hike with friends. Ngong Hills is always inviting.
Yeah.
And that's not damn expensive. If Ngong Hills doesn't appeal to you, maybe you can try Kilimambogo. And if you don't want any of the hills and the mountains, Karura is always invited.
Yeah.
Karura is, we're looking at these things that are near you, that are not expensive, that will help you to spend quality time somewhere that you can be. So those are very, very important things that we're saying. Be smart, learn to live with reduced income, but don't lower your quality of life. So if you're paying expensively, now you don't have to pay expensively. You can live on very well. The other thing, in times like this is when we need an emergency fund. Things are looking bad with a reduced income.
Yeah.
How would it be with no income? Or when a financial emergency occurs? If you are looking bad this way with reduced income, you can imagine if the income wasn't there.
Yeah.
And every time, it's very unfortunate, every time you're going to hear people getting retrenched. It's become so common nowadays that the company has closed, and there's all these nice words about what has happened, especially in the NGO world, in the private business space. Things are happening. And that's why it is paramount to establish a fund. So look at your monthly income, just multiply it by 6. Whatever your monthly income is, multiply by 6. And that is the minimum amount you want to eventually have. Eventual, not now, eventual. If you're in self-employment, don't multiply by 6, multiply by 12. Yeah. Because your environment can be more turbulent. It's for the person seeking to get a job, they can get a job faster than the person whose business was totally destroyed for them to come back.
Exactly.
It takes much longer to do that. So that's the minimum amount, and this fund is meant to cover to cover things like higher medical bills beyond your insurance limit. You know, if you have car trouble, and we are hoping that car inspection doesn't come. And we hope we don't make it an emergency, but we know the trouble it is going to bring along. I know 3 people have gone to court. We hope they will be hurt. And yeah, we need some money to tide over when we lose our job. Because now it doesn't look a guarantee for anybody. Even people working for government lose jobs. So you don't have to build it in a record time. No, you start slowly and you build it over time, so that you can actually be able to deal with those things without getting into unnecessary expenses, unnecessary debt, eating away your retirement savings or getting into new debt. So in times like this, that becomes a very, very essential thing to do. The other thing that's important, generally speaking, is we have to think about our goals. Because time, unfortunately, doesn't stop. You know, times might be tough, but time does not stop. So some things like retirement will still have to be thought about. Because, there's a reason why when you start working as a new person on the first job, the employer has to enroll you on the NSSF. And as long as you're employed, you stay contributing until you leave. If most employers, when you join in, after probation, maybe 3 months, they get you to join the employer's retirement program, if there's one. Those in self-employment should actually consider a personal pension plan, because retirement may seem to be far, but it comes very quickly, whether times are hard or whether times are not. So don't ignore it. I was talking to a group of young people the other day. I said, retirement actually comes faster than you ever think.
True.
Because if you're just about 30 or so, and you settle down, you got married, most likely by 31, 32 you have a child. By the time your child goes to school, you are 36, 37. By the time they leave the kindergarten, you are 39 or 40. By the time they leave primary school, you can actually see now you're heading 45, 46. By the time they leave secondary school, you're inching 50, 49, 50. And by the time the firstborn leaves college, you're somewhere 55. See, retirement is already beckoning. And you've been kept busy by the child in school, and that's the firstborn. So time runs out very quickly. That's why we can't afford to ignore it, even when times are tough. So don't quit from your retirement financing program. Now we talk about the emergency. I think we just talked about that. That's the other thing, because contingencies will obviously force us into expensive credit, or they might actually get us to sell our assets. And that's what we don't want. If you sold any of the assets now when times are hard, how do you replace it? If you sold your laptop, if you sold a computer, if you sold your... That becomes very, very difficult to do. And we also have major expenses that we have to do. For some people, it's personal development. Times are hard, yes, but I desire to do my bachelor's degree. I desire to do my master's degree, to do a professional qualification, because that's the only way I'll step on another rung that allows me to have more income. You see, that cannot be stopped. We still want to think about home ownership. Even when times are tough, we cannot stay on rent forever. We might want to deal with rent so that eventually we can be there. Some people want to go on holiday. Some people still want to buy the car that they were thinking. And as we do that, the education for our children is very, very important, because tertiary education isn't getting cheaper. And so we need to start early. We need to start preparing. So we're saying their goals, even when times are tough, you don't forget focusing on that. So we should not kill the dreams of our children. So what do we do? I always say to people, it's very easy. Just think about it, depending on the age of your child. Think how long you have before they turn 18. Because when they turn 18, for sure, they'll be ready for college. Now, start wondering, what are they likely to be good at? What are they likely to be? And if you're able to find, and I like asking parents this question, and I get good answers. Engineer, doctor, pilot. And I say, that's good. Don't kill that dream. But find out, what is it costing today? What is it costing at the university to train a doctor? Now, if you get that figure, what it is costing, you can actually project to what is it likely to cost when your child goes there because of inflation. And if you cannot be able to do that work, don't worry. That's why we have financial advisors. They can help you to do that. And that helps you to work back to say, so how much do I need to set aside today so that I can actually have that money in place? So this is important, because if we don't do that, we'll kill their dream. And when you kill the dream, sometimes you kill them, not only their dream. They get so devastated, they feel so bad. You had young people talking about toxic relationship. This is where those toxicity comes from. When they can see these people are killing my dream. Okay. Times are hard, but we cannot forget our short-term goals. Things we need to do as we settling down. Maybe I need some furniture. I need to organize some furniture, some electronics. I need a good phone that can be able to do the work I'm doing. We need a good TV to watch the World Cup. Some working tools, depending on where you are. Working tools is very varied. For somebody, it's how they dress, because it might be important where you work, how you dress. It could be the shoes, the bags, the phone, the tablet, the laptop, all those things. So whichever goal matters, it depends on where you are in life. So we can't tell somebody buying furniture is not the right thing. Maybe that's why they're settling down, so they need to buy the furniture. So for somebody who's just graduated, they might not be able to focus on many things until they've done that. For somebody who's been out for some time, then emergency fund is important. For somebody who's come through maybe into their 30s, 40s, maybe now expanding their business, owning a home, thinking about retirement is very, very important. There's somebody else who's going to focus on paying the debts that they have. So the goals will keep changing, but we always say keep a focus on the goals. Now, the other thing that's very, very important is we must ask ourselves, where is that extra shilling going to come from? Where is that extra shilling going to come from? Because sometimes if you're employed, your salary might not cater for everything you'd wish to have. And you can't keep forcing your employer to increase your salary, because even them, they might not be having it. They might be having tough times. We've seen businesses close because they are not sustainable. So to supplement your income, you need to have some income generating activity aside from your main job. You know what Kenyans we call side hustle? I think it is important. It could be from a skill you have, or a business, or from an asset that you rarely use. This is a time to look keen and say, what is it? And why is it necessary to have that extra income? I think the answers are very, very clear. That our current bills are challenging the current income. So when you find your current bills are challenging your current income, then you have to say, so where else will this other income come from? The cost of living is rising and the current income is not. So your income is not going up. The cost of living is, you bought bread for this. When you went back, it was much more. You visited a place. When you came back, it's costing more. Okay? You have expanding responsibilities you didn't have before. This come with age. Could be what? Fees. Could be rent. Could be hobbies. Or you got goals that you need to achieve, and you're looking at this saying, I am not looking like I'm achieving the goals. Or sometimes you have found you are pressing debts that need to be addressed. If the current income is not addressing them, then you need another one. Or you're not making enough now. You know, when you start seeing the months are getting longer than the money, it means we need more money. Sometimes you have the need to grow. You realize, I desire more, I want more, and what I have can only do this. So, and maybe sometimes you have the capacity to generate and you have not utilized that capacity. There are times when you find you have time in your hands. You're finding weekend, you don't have a lot to do. Now we're watching World Cup. When the World Cup is over, you find you have all this time in your hands. Okay? And we say time is money. Sometimes there are opportunities arising where you are and you're not capturing those opportunities. And of course, maybe you start and you've seen the danger of a single income stream. And that's why you're going to think about multiple income streams. So how can I make more money where I am today? So before you look elsewhere, it's important to say, consider optimizing where you are now. I always say to people who are employees, how can I make more money just as an employee? Is there a possibility that a promotion can come my way? So what do I require to get the promotion? Is it the hard work that I need to put in? Is it the creativity? Is it the energy I bring to the workplace? Is it the skills I have? Is it the knowledge? Do I need to do some study? So you ask yourself, what do I need under promotion. Um, do they give a pay rise where I work? Yes. Who gets a pay rise? I know in my many years in management, we used to have something we used to call a merit pay rise. And means you must have been outstanding than the others. So are you outstanding than the other people? Are you, by the time it is almost 5, you close your bags and you're gone? And if somebody calls you over the weekend, you're the first one to say, you're tutafanya Monday. You know, is that your attitude to work? And sometimes we say to employees, a job change is not a very impossible thing. Yeah. And it's not a bad thing if you think that's where you're going to have some more. For people who are self-employed, now, unlike people who are employees, there's no promotion for you when you're self-employed. But you can actually be able to have more income. It might mean you put in more time. You know, you become more smarter in what you're doing. It might mean you do business expansion. It might mean you look at the business you're doing and saying, what more am I not doing? What else can I be able to do? Yes, I'm doing this. I'm running a shop. But people are asking for something all the time that I don't have. What if you stocked it? That would change things. But wherever you are, we say, this is the time you need to work smarter, you need to work harder, and you need to work long. This is not the time for complaining and grumbling. We have what we call the sphere of control, a sphere of concern. We focus on the sphere of control. What's within my control? It is cold, yes, but I can dress warm. You know, so we need to focus on our sphere of control, not our sphere of concern. Yes, there are issues around the economy, but some of these things we can only sort it out by voting. Did you register as a voter? Spending time all the time doesn't change things. You know, are you writing a petition to your MP? You know, so that things can change, or your MCA? So that we can be able to, that's what they're saying, we need to be smart. And this is where we must start investing in ourselves so that we can optimize our income drivers. So we're saying, if you're looking at your income driver, you say, how much amount of self-control do I have? How much do I control myself? If you got a bit senior, you'll be surprised you have more control. The bank clerk and the bank manager are paid differently. But the bank manager has more control of what they can do with their time. People who are self-employed have more control. A lot of times I work with salespeople, and I say, you know, as a salesperson, if you have your own means of moving from A to B, you have more control. You can move faster there. If you have your own equipment, you don't have to borrow somebody's equipment. You need to go and do a presentation. You have your laptop, you have your projector. So the question is, how do I increase the amount of self-control I have? The other thing that we might want to look at is time utilization. We all have 24 hours. What are we doing with the time? What are we doing with the whole 24 hours? Maybe I'm working for my employer for 8 hours and I'm sleeping. 8 is even too much for an adult. 6 is enough. If you do 8, that's fine. But you still have another 8. What are we doing with what we are doing with all those time? How can I increase my income per hour? How can I add value? Because the world pays for value. How can I add value? This is part of the reason why we go back to school. We learn a new skill. We learn AI skills so that we can be able to do more. So that time is money, and we want to see how am I using my time. And I say to people, you know, I want to read a book, but I also want to travel from here to Thika. And if I'm using public means, that's a beautiful time to read that book. I can actually try the audio version of that book. So all I need is my phone, my earpods or my earphone, and I'll listen as I'm going there. So what have I done? I'll spend the time moving, but I'll spend the time building myself. So we're looking at optimizing the time, and maybe a lot of times multitasking. Very, very important that we look at. We also look at our profession or our economic sector. And there are times people change profession. I think I've seen that because people realize the profession I'm in, I can only go this far. But if I change profession, I have a possibility. Or alternatively, people work in different economic sectors. Yes, I'm an accountant, I'm working in the production sector, but I've realized the financial sector pays accountants better. So I can actually change the side where I am. In this country, it is very, very important to think about our level of education. We still honor education. We honor certificates. We honor knowledge. So I might be saying, well, I'm in mid-management. And how's my way to senior management? Maybe that MBA has to be done. Okay, I am an accounts clerk, and I want to be the accountant. That CPA has to be that. So you have to think about your education. What can you be able to do that around that education? A lot of us are very skilled, but we don't utilize the skills, you know. And I was telling somebody the other day, they say to me they're very good at playing the piano, and I say, that's a good skill, but what are you using it for? Are you playing the piano at your place of worship? No. Okay. What if you opened your house on Saturday afternoons for our children?
Exactly.
We'll send them there to you. You can teach them how to play the piano. We will happily pay you for it. So what are we doing with the skill? You know, you have the knowledge, and there are many things that we can think about. There are people who want to learn, and we must remember traditionally how we learn. The older person taught the younger one. I joke around with the ladies because every time I go to a wedding, I hear this critical advice that the way to a man's heart is through the stomach.
Yeah.
But our daughters don't know how to cook, and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
They had a minder all their life, and when they left home, they went to a hostel where food was provided. When they left the hostel, they went working, grow work, and deliver home. So when did they ever learn how to cook? Where will they ever learn? If you are the one who knows how to make some good mudokoi, some good chapati, some good mokimo, please open up your kitchen on Saturday morning. Train 5 of them, and they'll pay you. Your skill will start paying. So we have to start thinking, I know how to do gardening. Who else can learn gardening from you? You know, I know how to do crocheting. Who else can learn crocheting? Use the skills that you have. And yes, use the networks. We know a lot of people, but we do not even help us to benefit from knowing these people. So it is important for us that we do that. So as you're thinking about how you're going to create your side hustle, I think it is important to know the answer is always within. You know, this is the Moses question. What do you have? Stop looking what you don't have. What do you have? Okay. Listen to the self and consider the things you enjoy doing. And if you're not really hearing the voice, ask yourself.